Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
All right, let's hit up a couple more potential Packer prospects. Let's hit up another couple potential Packer prospects. All right. We're going to look on the defensive side of things. Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame, cornerback from Notre Dame, and Landon Jackson, edge rusher from Arkansas. Let's start off with Benjamin Morrison, the corner from Notre Dame. When you look at his physical traits, he's 6 foot, between 190, 195 pounds. Last year started the first 6 games for Notre Dame, but missed the final 10 games with a hip injury. Was voted as a team captain. 2023, he led the team with 10 pass breakups, played in 12 games with 11 starts, 31 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 3.5 tackles for loss. What does Daniel Jeremiah have to say about Benjamin Morrison? Morrison is a smooth, easy mover with ball skills. He's had a history of strong production before suffering a season-ending injury in October. He excels in off coverage with a fluid pedal and excellent awareness. He understands down and distance situations, settling and closing without wasting any movement. He can effortlessly flip his hips and run with vertical routes. In press coverage, he flashes the physicality to reroute, but he will lose his balance at times and get beat early in the down. He is a willing tackler, sticking his chest into ball carriers to get them on the ground. He flashed timing and burst as a blitzer. Overall, Morrison has the tools to emerge as a quality starting cornerback, provided he returns to full health. I think that's the key. I think that is the key. Provided he returns to full health. The Packers are dealing with this with Jair Alexander. Because let's face it, I think the biggest reason why Jair Alexander is going to get traded or going to get moved or not play for Green Bay this upcoming season is because he has been dealing with injuries. And he hasn't been available and he hasn't been on the field. So would Green Bay want to use an early day 2 back-end first-round pick on a corner who is coming off of a season-ending injury? And, hopefully they're not dealing with injuries for a minute. And it's not fair for Benjamin Morrison to kind of already have an injury label to him. I will say that. But will Green Bay kind of shy away from players, specifically corners, who are dealing with injuries or who have recently dealt with injuries because they just went through that with Jair? But then on the flip side, you look at their new free agent signing, Nate Hobbs. And Nate Hobbs has been a guy that's been going through injuries, but obviously Green Bay feels comfortable in him to bring him aboard. There's obviously more going on with Jair. I think, the injuries may be the number one thing, but then you add in the other stuff from the last couple of years, and it's probably like, okay, add it all up, and that's a big reason why. But I'll be honest, the hip injury concerns me. I'm sure he's cleared. He's ready to go. He's healthy in that, and it's not fair to knock him because of that, but it absolutely would worry me and concern me if that was an early pick for the Packers. When you take that away, sure, the guy's got some great intangibles. He's a solid outside corner. But there's some red flags for me, and a lot of it is from that injury concern. When you look at his production score from the Combine, he ranked 4th as a corner. Athleticism score amongst all corners, though, 13th. And then total score for cornerback rank, he was 6th. Staying on the defensive side, Landon Jackson, edge rusher from Arkansas. You look at him, he's 6'6", between 265, 270 pounds. Combine numbers, ran the 40 in a 4.68 with a 1.65 yard split, a vertical of a 40.5 and a 10-foot 9-inch broad jump. Athleticism score, he ranked second amongst all defensive ends and edge rushers. Total score, he ranked sixth among defensive end and edge rushers. Production, though, he was just 13th. What does Daniel Jeremiah have to say about this edge rusher from Arkansas? And this was a guy, too, if you remember the Combine, I don't know if anybody else saw this, but if you go back before the Combine, was it the Combine, I believe it was, or was it the Senior Bowl? Might have been the Senior Bowl. But regardless, there was this guy that looked very robotic in like his pass rushing drills and such, and this was Landon Jackson. He's gotten a lot better after it, but looked really stiff and such. But anyways, Daniel Jeremiah says, Jackson has outstanding size, 6'6", 264, length and explosion. As a pass rusher, he utilizes a long arm move to notch wins in the backfield. He has a nice burst to close and finish. I love his effort. Against the run, he can stack and hold single blocks, but he struggles against down blocks. He has climbed up the rankings this offseason with an awesome performance in the Senior Bowl and an impressive showing at the Combine. So the thing with Landon Jackson, so a little bit last year, 2024, second team All-SEC, led the team with 6.5 sacks, tied the team lead with 9.5 tackles for loss, had 3 pass breakups, a forced fumble, blocked kick. The year before that, he was a first-team All-SEC. He had 13.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. The thing that I was kind of reading a little bit last night for him is he still could be a little bit of a project. Still could be a little bit raw. And in one of his scouting reports, this was from an NFC National Scout, he's tough, but I don't see enough contact balance to play down in an odd front. Let him be a big, even front base end, so 4-3. He's got a chance to become a good starter, but it won't happen early on. So again, it comes down to, are you willing to spend a early pick on him, but it might take a little bit. It might take a couple of years. You know, for me, I'm thinking, okay, is this another Lucas Van Ness? Is it another guy like that where maybe it's going to take a couple of years? You still have to mold him a little bit. That's my concern, is that he's potentially not going to be an impact player right away. He's got the physical traits and he's got the tools. You look at him and such, and yes, he had a good Senior Bowl. Yes, he tested well at the Combine. You know, you got a tall, big dude, 6'6", probably going to be up to 270 when he gets to the NFL. He's got those physical traits. But is his game going to be refined enough to be a impact contributor right away? From all accounts, the majority say, no, not really. Might take a little bit. And that's where it boils down to, if you're Green Bay, I think if you ask fans, they want a guy that's going to play right away or he's going to be a contributor right away. But you look at what Goody and the Packers have done the last few years, he kind of maybe fits that pick for Green Bay, where they draft a guy early on, one of their early picks, whether it's a first round or maybe an early day 2, and they like the potential of him. They like his ceiling, where they feel like in a couple years, this guy is going to be at his peak. He may not be at the peak now, but let's get him in our lab and let's get him in our building and let's work with him and coach him up and train him. And then in a couple years, that guy is going to be awesome. It's a little bit of a risk, but they view it as a high reward in the end. That's kind of been Green Bay's MO for a lot of their early picks. And this would fit that. But I think if you polled a lot of Packers fans, you'd be like, another one? Another guy that it might take a couple years to really kind of reach his peak and become and that's not even a given. I think you'd have some fans, not all, but I think you'd have some fans that would scoff or hesitate a little bit at that. But he does fit a lot of areas that Green Bay potentially would be looking at for defensive ends and such. For all of the prospects that we have done so far, like I could see, again, the whole point of this is to give a little bit of a background on a couple of prospects here and there that could be Packers targets. And I'm picking these guys that, yes, I could see Green Bay going out there and drafting, or they fit a need for Green Bay. So, really focusing on corners, defensive linemen, wide receivers, even throwing some offensive linemen in here. But of all the guys that we have done so far, if I had to rank them in terms of my power rankings of who I would really like Green Bay to get, not trying to knock these guys too much, but these two, Landon and Benjamin, might be a little bit lower on my list of the guys that we have done so far, just from my personal feelings on them, because I don't know if they can be impact players right now. I want impact players right now. I know we keep saying that and preaching that and such, but if it's a first round pick or if it's an early day 2 pick, I want the guy to be able to be, if he's not a starter, he's kind of a pseudo starter, maybe not in a base, but really he's kind of like a nickel corner, right? Nickel corner may not be in a starter in a base defense, but a nickel defenses are kind of your new base defenses these days, so they're kind of a pseudo starter. I want a guy that's gonna come in ready to play right away, because the window's now. The window's now for Green Bay, and maybe Landon Jackson or Benjamin Morrison come in the rookie years and they absolutely light it up, and good for them. But right now, we don't know that, and these teams and these GMs and these executives and these scouts all have to make their picks based off of projections. They got to predict that these guys are going to be good players. And just in my perspective, where I'm not even, my opinion doesn't matter in this one, but if I were to, of all the players and the prospects that we've kind of picked, they're probably a little bit down the list for me. They're a little bit down the list for me. But I could easily see Green Bay making those moves. And if they are, I'd be like, I get it. I'm maybe not too excited about it, but I get it. I understand it. It's a typical Packers pick. When we get a little bit closer to the draft, probably next week or so, we'll start to throw out some feedback to you listeners out there. Like, what is the position? I guess I could throw it out now, but what is the position that you just really don't, and a realistic one? So, like, quarterbacks don't count in this, but what's the position you really don't want to see Green Bay address in the first round, or like you would be upset if they address in the first round? So take away the quarterbacks. We know that's not going to happen. Okay. Probably take away running back. We know that's not going to happen. But what would be like the position that you would just be annoyed that they drafted in the first round? Would it be offensive line? I know some of you are very unhappy with offensive line potentially being a first-round pick. Some of you are like, nope, I get it. It's a depth thing, and you look at the next couple of years when we talked about offensive line last week, that was it was like back and forth. Some were like, please, no, don't draft an offensive lineman again in the first round, and then the other part's like, nope, totally get it. Add depth, get more guys in the trenches. Is it, safety would probably be in there too, which they got Xavier and Evan Williams. So, but like a realistic one, like you could see Green Bay doing it. You could see Green Bay pulling the trigger and drafting this position with their first-round pick, but it would just super annoy you. And you get completely frustrated with it. So think about that for a little bit. Would it be offensive line? Like, yeah, I get it, but it would annoy me, sort of thing.